All right, welcome everyone to the Solana Community Validator discussion, May 11th, 2023. The agenda for today, we've got a lot of things to talk about. So first, some validator updates. Then I'm going to give a minute for the new head of staking, Ben Hawkins, to talk about his role and just intro himself if you haven't already met him or know of him. Ben Sunny is going to present the Solana Validator ToolKit, SVT. So we're going to have some time for that. And at the end, Marinade will talk about their new directed staking product. So lots of things to discuss. Let's jump in. First of all, Mainnet. So we have the call out for 10% of stake to move to 114.17. Looks like the operators have met the call, so we've got about 10% of stake there. Next week, we're planning to ask for 25% of stake to move to 114.17. And then the following week, the plan, assuming all goes well with that plan, we will call for a full adoption the week of May 22nd. So hopefully, if nothing changes between now and the 22nd, we'll have 114.17 be the majority version on Mainnet. So any questions about that rollout plan so far? I think at this point, everyone's seen the root cause analysis and has a pretty good idea of what's going on and kind of the structure of the rollout plan. But any other thoughts or ideas there?
Okay. Tim,
yeah.
Is there any updates on the adversary testing? Is that moving along?
Yeah, so there's a good amount of adversarial testing going on in private clusters. The reason for that was mainly because the 114.17 and 113.7 fixes that address the root cause of the last restart were potential security risks for the cluster. So I guess the answer is yes. We could probably do a better job of sort of putting that out there for stuff that's public, but at this time, I think most of the work has been kind of behind the scenes.
I assume they're moving forward to testing things as in how they will, I suppose.
Yeah. There's also a channel in Discord. I forget the exact name of it. If somebody remembers, put it in the chat. But there's a channel talking about load emulation of Mainnet on Testnet. So that's sort of another area where engineers are putting more effort and there's more focus on how we can test in Testnet better. But another big part of that whole adversarial push and sort of like how we harden our release cycle is this process I'm talking about now, is a more slow rollout of 114 and future releases. And also, I'm sure a lot of you know the upgrade and downgrade cycle we went through on Testnet to make sure that we can both go forward and go back between the two minor versions without issue.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, no questions then. For Testnet, nothing really changed between last call. So 114.17 is still recommended on Testnet. The plan is once 114.17 is adopted on Mainnet, 116 will then be recommended for Testnet. 115 was the release that was cut, but it was abandoned after the 114 rollout didn't go successfully for the last restart. So 115 is gone. 116 will be the next release on Testnet. Quick plug here for Validator educational workshops. So the last workshop was a few weeks ago. Steve from Core Engineering did a great job talking about logs and what logs are important when your validator starts up. So want to keep that cadence going on like a monthly basis, I think. The next one's going to be May 31st, 1700 UTC. And yeah, like always, looking for topics and presenters that people are interested in or passionate about, want to teach. Just as a quick plug here, if you haven't seen the workshops, there's a playlist on YouTube that I'll put in the chat. But yeah, if you have any thoughts or ideas, please reach out on Discord. Let me know. I'll remind people again the next community call, but as we get closer, I'd like to have a better idea of what the topic is and who's presenting. Cool. All right, now I want to kick it over to Ben Hawkins, the new head of staking at the Solana Foundation, to intro himself.
Hey everybody, my name is Ben Hawkins. I know I've met a lot of you either in person over Zoom and these calls and just on Discord in general. So now, and I used to run the Cogent Crypto Validator. So now Brian Cole runs that validator, and I no longer kind of have access or control over that. And yeah, so Solana Foundation brought me on as the head of staking, and generally what that means for me and for the community is I'm going to be thinking about how can we change, the foundation's delegation strategy in a way that can sort of have validators graduate out of it. Like, the current system has filled its role for a long time, but I would like to see a system where people can have foundation stake and have a path to being independent of the foundation. And that's kind of just the goal in general across the foundation, is like, how can we move sort of the centralization and the components that the foundation does kind of like into the hands of the community. And my goal is to do that in a smooth way that, that maintains the health of the network, but also reduces the level of control and independence that the network itself has on the foundation. So yeah, that's kind of like where my head is at. Anyone who wants to kind of reach out to me, have thoughts, things that they want to see, happy to hear feedback and share where my head's at a little bit without, jumping the gun on kind of pre-announcing anything. So, there'll be things I won't be able to share right away, but yeah, I would love to hear from anybody who has an opinion on what they think about the delegation program and where they'd like to see it head to. Yeah, and I think the community is going to be a really important information source for me. I mean, I've been in the shoes on the other side, but there's no way for me to have seen everything and know everything that's going on. So I'll be depending on this community of validators to help us think through what's a good way forward. Yeah, appreciate it. I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, let me share again. So here's Ben's Discord handle if you want to find him on Discord, and let me put that in the chat as well. All right. Great. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to Sunny. He's going to intro the Smart Validator Toolkit, which I will let him take over the presentation. So go ahead, Sunny.
Thank you, team. Hi, everybody. I will ask my friend and partner Leo to share his screen because I just can't handle doing both. I'm not that good at multitasking. Okay, seems to be working. 1 point for us. Okay, so SVT is our community project for validator operators. It's a toolkit for installing, monitoring, and managing your validator via Web3. Includes alerting and financial reporting features. It's based on our SV Manager project, which you may have heard about. It's currently used by some 200 Solana validators, which is much appreciated. Thank you, guys. So right now we are in anonymous mode because we have not connected a wallet yet. This is how it looks. This is a full list of validators. You can click any of those, and without connecting your wallets, you will see a number of metrics important to assess the performance of this validator, including the J-score there at the bottom, 40 for this validator. The J-score is, by the way, the score we use to distribute stake in JPool. So we can see it right away. If the validator has a monitoring module installed, we'll switch to another that does the SVT monitoring. There are there's some additional information, some additional metrics at the bottom. Here it is in the monitoring section, which refer to the performance of the Linux node it is installed on. So you can see here, by the way, that this validator has a warning. It's on the top, the yellow warning, and it is also marked there. The metric in question, which is troublesome, is also marked with a yellow stripe. So right away, you can see if it's your validator, you can see that there is something that needs your attention. It could also be red. In that case, that is really an error or a critical value of one of the metrics, which requires attention right away. You can also be alerted about that, but later, more on that later. Now, let's connect a wallet. After you do, you are able to select nodes for your watch list, so it's easier to navigate between them without looking for them in the full list every time. And also, very important, the control and alerting features become available there in the menu on the left. So what else do we have here? In the menu, we have the report section. Here you can see how your validator performs financially, your expenses, your gains. You can also enter the server costs, so you see like the true profit and loss. And you can export this to a PDF and send this to your accountant, because I'm absolutely sure that every single one of us is fiscally responsible and reporting all of your Solana income yearly, right? What else? Alerting. Alerting is right there in the menu at the bottom. Here for the delegators, there is a delinquency or commission change notification. So if you are delegating your SOL to a validator, you want to know when they go delinquent. So you move your stake, or if they raise their commission. And the other two switches are for validator operators. You can be notified only on critical level, so on real errors, or you can be notified on everything, including warnings. Right now, the only channel available is Telegram. You use this, you get a Telegram channel where you get all the notifications, but we're working on adding a couple of other options as well. We have a public API here as well. You can use this to use our public API in your products. Comprehensive docs available if there's anything unclear, or if you want to get a key to use this, just reach out anytime to me or to Alex Frey. Blockchain Messenger. Let's move back, please. Messenger. So in order to create the communication layer between the Web3 and the agent, the SVT agent running on your Linux node, we had to develop a communication protocol. And when we had that, we used it as well to create the blockchain messenger feature, which is secure on-chain communication between wallets. You can also use it, say, for delegator to validator, or vice versa, validator broadcasting to all of their delegators. Communication, we hope it will be used. Check it out, play with it. We appreciate any feedback. Now, the control feature, which is probably the most important one. So if you're on the go, you don't have access to an SSH terminal, but you need to do something with your node, this is where you go. Right now, we are on Mainnet, and Leo doesn't have a running validator on Mainnet, which is why this is empty. But if you click settings, it walks you through the process of installing the agent on your validator. We have full comprehensive doc on that with manual and screenshot and everything. So this is, we're now on testnet, and there is a validator, and the agent is installed. So this is what you see, the interface. And in that drop-down list right there, yeah, thank you. You have the comments. Install validator, which is for a fresh install. This is what you start with. You can restart the validator from here. You can stop it, update the software quickly, update the monitoring module, etc. This is what you do via Web3 right now. on the roadmap, we plan to do this via Telegram as well, and we are working on an app, on a mobile app, to make it even more convenient when you need to do something on the go. Also on the roadmap, we want to add the restart cluster command, so we don't have to all sit around at 4 a.m. waiting for the cluster to restart. Installing plugins such as Bloxroute, which is coming up next. Installing Jitto client if you want to. And also on the roadmap, performance analytics to help you make your validator simply earn more. That is pretty much, yeah, right. Postscriptum, last but not least, if you are running SVT on your mainnet validator, you're automatically in JPool. Thank you for your attention. Yeah, this is the diagram of the internal architecture of SVT for those who aren't interested. And we will gladly take questions now. Probably Alex will take questions. You know, I'm a talking head, but you know me, guys. Anything?
Sonny, there was a question about the best way to reach you. What handles would be good?
Sure, I'll drop all of those here on the chat, our channel, and my Telegram handle as well. I'm not much on Discord.
And then do you plan adding tools to handle restarts too? It sounded like you addressed that in the talk.
Yes, also we plan to add the tools to do the restarts, to do the coordinated restarts. So we will watch all of the recommendations from the Solana Foundation team and add the scripts so the validators can restart it just via a click or do an automatic restart while cluster is starting process. Yes.
Any other questions, thoughts? Blake just says he likes the metrics a lot. I agree. Pretty cool.
Thank you.
Sonny, can you have multiple validators on the control list?
Yes, of course.
Cool.
It's up to the validator to use the automatic restart or not. We can just offer that option. For some, it will be useful. For some, not.
And did you say, can we roll this out on Testnet to test it first?
Of course, some validators are using it already on Testnet, some of Mainnet, and it works. It works, but anyone is free to try it, to use it. We will appreciate any feedback we get from you.
All right. Any other questions? Shout out for the tax reporting stuff from Max. Okay. Well, thank you, Sonny and Alex, and I will now shift gears a little bit to Marinade. So Marinade has a presentation on directed stake. I'll let them, oh, sorry, let me share this real quick. Yeah, Marinade team has a presentation on directed stake. I will share these two links in the chat, but let the Marinade team take over from here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tim. And thank you guys for giving me some space to talk to you. So there will be a survey that we want to send to you guys, but we can send it after the intro. There's no worries with that. And let me share my tab. Okay, is it working well?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So for those of you that may not know Marinade, I hope you all do, but Marinade is, I'll give a very short intro. So Marinade is a stake pool, the biggest stake pool on Solana. It launched on August 2021 and has been delegating stake to you guys like between 4 and 7 million sol staked to you guys validators for the last 2 years almost. And the focus of Marinade has always been to help Solana become a more decentralized cluster and also to make it as secure as possible by having a reliable cluster of validators, and also doing that while bringing to users the best risk-adjusted yield, so the best risk-adjusted staking yield. So Marinade has done that for a long time now through mostly its algorithmic delegation strategy, which ranks and scores all validators on chain every epoch, depending on criteria such as performance, location, skipped slots, and basically all the metrics that allow us to evaluate a validator performance. And 80% of Marinade stake, or approximately 4 million sol, is being delegated to the top 100 performing validators according to our delegation strategy. This is done in a fully transparent and algorithmic fashion that can be checked every epoch. It can now be checked even more through our validators dashboard that released not long ago, and that provides a lot of intel on how your score is being calculated and what you can do to improve it. But this setup and this design creates a challenge. The first one is that people that actually contribute to our TVL, people that stake SOL and get MSOL, provide 100% of the stake to our stake pool, yet they control 0% of the delegation. So they basically have to be okay with how the delegation strategy is working or not stake. And the second challenge is that for any user, depositing a stake account to Marinade means not supporting the validator anymore, because the stake will be rebalanced and will reach one of those top 100 performing validators. So if a staker that is currently staking to Juicy Stake decides to go to MSOL, there's a very likely chance that the stake will go away from Juicy Stake and will be distributed to many different validators. So this situation makes it impossible, basically, for a validator to suggest liquid staking to some of their users that might be the most DeFi savvy, because it means losing stake. So it creates this kind of rivalry dynamic between stake pools and validators that we feel sometimes prevented us from working together. So Marinade has been thinking, and we came up with one potential solution to these challenges that we want to introduce today. And it's called directed stake. It will allow anyone to delegate stake to a specific validator while benefiting from everything MSOL has to offer. So how it works is quite simple. Very soon, whenever you want to stake some SOL and get MSOL, you'll have the option to do it in 2 different ways. You can choose to follow the standard delegation strategy and nothing changes, or you can choose to direct stake to a specific validator. In this case, in this example, we chose Solana Compass, and we're about to stake 300 SOL to him. Once I validate this transaction, it will be registered that my wallet is directing stake to Solana Compass. And then any day in the future, I can go on Marinade app and check how much SOL I'm currently delegating to Solana Compass by using my MSOL. Is it? Oh, no, David, sorry, I think you're unmuted.
Yeah, David, if you can mute. Thanks.
So to get into the mechanics a bit of directed stake will now represent 20% of Marinade stake pool. It's a bit similar to the MNDE gauges, if you know them. So that means that one MSOL being used in directed stake will control a different amount of SOL delegation, depending on how much this product is used. So it makes it a bit more complex to predict, but it also gives it some upside, as if Marinade's TVL grows a lot, or if the product is underused, you would probably get more than 1 SOL delegated to your node for 1 MSOL being used to direct stake. Finally, another innovation that we have with directed stake is that we will be able to monitor your MSOL holding in your wallet, but also in your DeFi position. So if you have a user that has 1,000 MSOL in his wallet, but 1,000 MSOL in Solend, his real voting power will actually be 2,000 MSOL, and the SOL that he has in Solend will be monitored daily. This happens through a snapshot system that we developed ourselves, and that will basically use the snapshot of the full chain that is being done every hour or every 2 hours by Validator. And we then pass the data, deserialize all the accounts, and we're able to basically find the MSOL holdings of everyone and give them a voting power depending on it. And finally, you'll only be able to use one wallet to direct stake to one validator. So it will be possible to direct stake to multiple validators, but you will have to do so using multiple wallets. A bunch of other new stuff that is coming along directed stake is an improved dashboard. So maybe you've used the validator's dashboard already, and it already has a lot of interesting metrics, both for validators and stakers. But we figured that it was a bit hard to read sometimes, and it didn't concentrate all the information in the best way possible. So we're coming up with an improved dashboard, as you can see here, where you have all the metrics represented in a graph form. We will also introduce customizable validator pages. So you will just have to get in touch with us, and your validator page could have a banner, a link to your website, to your socials, but basically we want to make this validator page on Marinade's dashboard yours to be used. And you'll also be able to directly use directed stake here. So I want to direct stake to Cogent, I can do it right from here. Another detail about directed stake that I know may be important for you guys is that everything will be available through our SDK. So if you want an integration on your own, if you want to integrate it on your own dashboard or something like that, it will be completely possible. And all the data that we gather to make directed stake work will also be available publicly through an API. So if you want to get the list of people with MSOL that votes for you and support you, if you want to know with how much MSOL they support you, all of that can be obtained, and you can organize airdrops. You can thank them in any way you want. So that's about it for directed stake. We do have a lot planned regarding the validator's dashboard, regarding some evolution of Marinade coming in the next weeks and months. And we're quite bullish on what we think we can achieve if we get to grow MSOL, because by growing MSOL and by growing Marinade, we think that we'll be able to redistribute more stake in an efficient and fair way to all of the cluster by using this transparent delegation strategy, which we also invite all of you to be critic of. We'd be more than happy for validators to attack and critique the delegation strategy as much as possible to make it evolve in a way where Marinade delegation strategy ends up delegating to the best validator and ends up supporting the network the best. That's where Marinade wants to go, and we'd be happy to do this road with you. So if you want to get in touch, you can reach out on Discord, Telegram, Twitter, just get in touch with me. And if you can take 2 or 3 minutes to fill out this survey that we have for validators, it will be about directed stake, a bit about our dashboard, and also a way for us to get your handle and a way to contact you, because we do work a lot on products for you guys, validators, and we want you to be aware of them and use them if you want to. So thanks a lot for your time, and I'll be taking any questions if you have some. And maybe I can keep this up if you guys want to.
Looks like Sentetsu has a question.
Yeah, I just want to understand the directed stake a little bit better. So someone basically takes Sol, gets MSOL, and then directs what validator that MSOL should be delegating to,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the only way, since MSOL is all completely fungible, I guess you must be tracking the withdrawal authority that and how much MSOL they have, and then how much that withdrawal authority says that they want particular MSOL values to go to. Is that
it's even more? Yeah, it's even more complex, because I could like get MSOL and send them to you, and if you unstake them, I wouldn't have interacted with this authority. So what we actually do is we take a snapshot of the chain every 12 hours, and we look at every wallet and every holdings in DeFi, trying to find all the MSOL held by the user. So at launch, we won't be supporting all DeFi protocols because we have to add them one by one. For example, if a margin that released recently will not be supported, and we have to deserialize the accounts on margin and add them to the monitoring. So it doesn't support everything out of the blue. We still have this work of adding new protocols to be supported, but it works entirely on a snapshot system. So maybe you can have some power for 12 hours more than planned because you sold the MSOL, but there's no way to game it because your score is, your MSOL holdings is updated every 12 hours or 24 hours.
Okay, thank you. That does answer my question because I was trying to understand how there wasn't a conflict between this fungible token then being used in DeFi systems and then essentially losing the power of being able to, delegate to specific validators. But I think you answered that, so thank you.
Yeah, it was quite a challenge, but we are quite happy with the result.
I have a question for Brian.
Yes.
How it works with taxes? Okay, also the snapshot system will work as long you use taxes on DeFi on Solana blockchain. If MSOL is sold on some tax which is MSOL is traded, how do you monitor that?
Well, what we monitor is the MSOL held by a given user. So if the user gets rid of all his MSOL on the next snapshot, we would see it and we would have zero voting power for him. He would be considered as no longer having MSOL. So even if he votes for, even if he directs stake to a validator, he would be directing it with zero power.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and what Alexandru is saying is also a good point. We don't support centralized exchanges yet. We need to be able to access the position somehow, and centralized exchanges won't let you do that.
Yeah, I see. Thank you.
Brian, you also had a question? Or...
Yeah. Is there going to be a cooldown for changing stake? Because I know when you're redelegating to another validator, you basically are missing out. So I'm wondering if this would maybe solve some of those issues if you wanted to switch from, a validator on one epoch to the next epoch. You're not having to undelegate and then redelegate.
It wouldn't on the user level. Like you would just keep your MSOL and change the people that gets the direct stake, but it could change for the validator. So it could take 2 to 3 epochs for Mainnet to rebalance the stake in the background.
The user's not actually going to lose any rewards.
Yeah, the user keeps the rewards of MSOL. So
cool. Thank you.
And Ben, and I know that Solblaze, you also have a few questions in the chat. I'll take them after.
Yeah, quick question is this a one wallet, one validator vote system?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So basically kind of you're looking at all the wallets that do have a directed, like a validator, if any, adding up that total like across all of those wallets. And then that percentage then to validators is then put on that 20% of the total stake you guys have. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
So I'm looking at the questions you have on the lending protocol. I might need to get back to you on this one and check with LJ exactly how the monitor would handle those cases of MSOL borrowed, MSOL lent. But I'm happy to give you more details, unless Alexandru wants to come in.
Yeah, I think in this case, if you have the user A that landed 1000 MSTOL on Solent, he has that power and it votes for validator B. But if the user B that borrowed that MSTOL from the lending protocol and has already voted with a validator, it will actually count. So it might be an edge case that we need to look more to also check with LG was the actual behavior or the impact of that MSOL. But It's a good one.
Yeah,
I
because
think it will count.
it seems like somebody could kind of do a self-borrow loop in that scenario, right? Like I deposit 10,000 MSOL and then I borrow 8,000, and so I deposit 8,000 and just kind of loop it in the same one. Then you've kind of leveraged your position in a way that actually didn't increase Marinade's TVL at all.
Yes, and we
then
might
even
need
more
to.
complicated if
Yeah,
they're the same across separate wallets.
Yeah, and we might work with Solend on that and say that, for example, we would take the MSOL being lent, and we would look at the utilization rate of the whole Solend pool. And if it's 50%, we would count that you have 50% of your MSOL being lent. That count because the rest is being borrowed. That could also be a solution. And we're aware that there's going to be case by cases, things like that. But what we mostly want is to expand on the system with you guys and with what makes sense. Brian Smith, you have an extremely good question about eligibility. So what we decided is that in order to be eligible to MSOL directed stake, for now, you need to, so we kept the commission rule that you cannot have more than 10%, obviously. We also have like a minimum of, I think it's 100 SOL for the last month. So just some kind of proof that your validator has some stake. And in order to receive directed stake, your validator will need to perform at least 80% as well as the lowest validator that performs the worst and still receives algorithmic stake. So you cannot perform less than 80% of the people that get Marinade stake. But we actually looked, and out of like, I think it's 2,500 validator right now, it would exclude like 300 or 400. It really excludes the long tail, not performing validators, but most of them were eligible in our model.
Are there any concerns that like a lower APY, let's say, max commission 10%, if like enough of that gets staked, it kind of draws down the value add of like holding IMSOL, or is that just kind of the assumption that not too much of the directed stake is going to end up in that way?
Well, it's an open question, and if we realize that it's what happens and that this product is mostly used by 10% commission validator that actually like harm Marinade's APY, one thing that we have in mind is to maybe add some kind of quadratic power to that, which would make it that the less you perform, the more costly it becomes to use gauges and MSOL to direct stake to you. So you can still do it, but you have like this penalty because you're doing it towards a node that doesn't perform. That's one thing that we are thinking. For now, we have hope that mostly community validators in this audience will be the one using it, sharing it with their stakers, and it ends up being like a good average of the cluster, a good representation of the cluster average. But if it ends up being mostly used by bad actors, we will obviously come up with fixes.
Yeah, makes sense.
And yeah, 10% commission is the max Solbase. Yes, that is true, Yonit. And I know we discussed it also a bit together, but Marinade has this fine line to walk between decentralization and performance. And they tend to, the more you push decentralization, the less you push performance. So it's always a balance between the two, it seems. But as I mentioned at the end of my presentation, the new delegation strategy by Marinade had one main purpose, and it was to be easy to understand for validators so that all of you guys can make amendments, suggestions that can be discussed as a community. We want Marinade to be owned as much by validator as by the rest of the ecosystem. It's not a video, it's like the Google background. Yeah, I'm in the same coffee as Ben.
All right. Any other questions for the Marinade team?
Solblaze has one last question. So 1 million Sol is what it is in the current state, but it will be 20% of Marinade's pool. So if Marinade pool doubles, it would be 2 million. And I cannot say much more, but we also have plans to grow the TVL and the impact that Marinade can have on the validators cluster. We're hopeful that we can help it much more than what we are doing now.
All right. Thanks all. Thanks to all the presenters. Thanks, Sunny. Thanks, Alex. And yeah, congrats, Ben, on the new role.
Yeah.
See you all in 2 weeks. And reminder, this will be the later/earlier call, depending on where you are in the world.
Thanks a lot, guys. And please fill the survey if you want and get in touch if you're interested.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.